Hey, this is Jacob Lamb with Guitar Tricks, and today we're going to take a look at how to turn your major scale practice from tedious to fun. Now, if you're interested in more beginner guitar tips, you can check out the description below for a link to our free Ultimate Beginner Guide, which includes an essential chord chart, a practice plan, and so much more. There are a ton of other links to more guitar topics, so check out the description to learn more guitar. Now, the major scale is sort of your bread and butter of playing guitar. It can be simple and easy to learn, but also so much deeper than a lot of musicians take it, and you can do some really neat things within that shape. But let's start with actually looking at the shape itself. I'm going to start this from the 5th fret of our 6th string, and we'll have the shape up here on the screen as well. Now, I can play that from anywhere on the neck, but we should know that the note we start on is also the key that we're in. That was starting from an A, so we'd be in the key of A. If I took that same shape and slid it up to a C, I could play the exact same pattern, but we'd be in the key of C. For this lesson, we're going to stick with the key of A, so I'll always be playing it from the 5th fret. Today, we're going to talk about 3 tricks that we can use to actually develop it into something really neat. We're going to talk about outlining chord changes with it, pentatonic swapping, and going between notes and triad chords in our playing. Let's start with outlining chord changes. Now, this scale has got 7 unique notes over 2 octaves. So octave 1 is on the thickest 3 strings, octave 2 is on the thinnest 3 strings. We can hear that when we play it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're back to an octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's our second octave. Now, each of these 7 unique notes in this scale can be a starting point for what we're going to call different positions. Position 1 starts from the first note and plays the 7 unique tones. Position 2 starts from the second note and plays 7 unique tones. So we start and end 1 note further. Position 3, same thing. We start from the 3rd note and we end 1 note higher, so we've still got 7 unique tones. Here's what that sounds like, all within the same shape. We don't need to learn anything differently from that major scale. Here's position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're back to the octave. Now, if you're familiar with modes, this is exactly what we're doing. We're working up the 7 modes, but instead of learning 7 unique shapes, we're keeping each of the 7 modes to our 1 major scale shape, which makes it a lot easier to play. Now, why is visualizing the major scale that way so useful? Well, each of these positions have a different feel, a different sound. And typically, people will learn the major scale, and when they want to solo with it, they'll kind of play anything, any notes in there, being fair game over chord changes. But what if we took those 7 unique positions and lined them up with chords in a song? For example, we're in the key of A. So if we played A, E, D, and back to A, well, that would be the 1st, 5th, 4th, back to the 1st chord in our key. Now, we are also playing this scale in the key of A, which means that we have the 1st position, the 5th position, and the 4th position. Now we can limit our playing to those positions. And I know limiting Doesn't sound like it would take something from tedious to fun. But when we center our playing around the chord changes, it's going to transform how well our solo lines up with the song. Listen to this in practice with the same song that you saw during the intro. So step number 1 is breaking our scale into 7 different positions and lining them up to play around the chord changes. Step number 2 is called pentatonic swapping. The minor pentatonic is one of the first shapes people learn when they want to solo on the guitar, but there's also a major pentatonic. Pentatonic being just 5 notes in a scale instead of 7. And it actually overlays perfectly on our major scale, meaning switching back and forth becomes really simple. Check this out. The only difference between the major scale and the major pentatonic is that we're taking away the 4th and the 7th tone. Now we've got 5 unique notes instead of 7, and it sounds like this. Now, why would we want to swap back and forth with a scale that has less notes in it? Well, there are 2 main reasons. The first one is speed in movement. If I'm playing the major scale down here, and I need to quickly jump up to the higher strings, I've only got a couple of beats to do it, I can avoid this big awkward jump and skip by actually just playing up the rest of the pentatonic scale. Really quick way to move around. And then we can combine that with different positions, right? I can use that major pentatonic to quickly get me here and play in maybe my 6th position shape. The other reason why we'd want to transition back and forth is that this sounds different than any of the 7 positions we just covered, which means it's an 8th sound, an 8th vibe, without learning any new shapes. All of a sudden, we've got these 7 really cool positions or modes that we can play in over chord changes, and we've got a whole new major pentatonic scale that we can transition back and forth from. So now, the major scale is becoming a lot more fun to play, but there's one more step, and it's actually bringing in triad chords. Now, triad chords have 3 notes, and when we're talking about them in the context of a scale, they're always going to go every other note. So, from my first note here, I can play 1, skip 2, 3, skip 4, and 5. Since I'm playing that from an A, those are actually the notes in my A chord, which means that I can center around these 3 notes to play an A. Starting from the next note up, I can do the same thing. 2, skip over 3, 4, skip over 5, 6, and those are the notes in the 2nd chord of the key. So what we're doing is we're finding chord shapes within the key of A. We've got chord 1, chord 2, 3, skip over 4, play 5, skip over 6, play 7. Those are the notes in chord 3. Now I could use every other note to find all 7 chords in the key and keep them within that scale shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to the octave. Or I could use the triad chord shapes, major and minor, from each of those starting notes to kind of expand in either direction a little bit, right? So instead of 1, 3, and 5, I can play that same note right there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll notice the shape is changing a little bit as we use that 2nd string. 7, and 8. Now we can use that to actually bring chords into our soloing. Maybe we can combine that with step 1 and actually play some inversions of chords over chord changes in the song. Now, don't just watch and leave. Comment below which of these 3 methods you're most interested in trying. We've got playing over chord changes with 7 positions, pentatonic swapping to move quickly or get a different sound, and then bringing triad chords into our playing. And those are just 3 of dozens of techniques to make the major scale more interesting, so don't stop here. Practicing these individually is very cool, but blending them and utilizing all 3 methods in a single solo is where it becomes really powerful. Again, down in the description, there are so many lessons and tutorials to play guitar, so don't be scared to go click one of those links, and we'll see you in the next video.